Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all having an amazing March. I'm currently filming this on Mother's Day actually, so I hope if you are a mum, you're having a brilliant Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, and if you are not a mother, I hope your mother had a good Mother's Day. As I said, I think in my previous video, today's video is actually going to be a Project Sticks update, which I'm really excited to talk through. In the last sort of couple of months since I made the original Project Sticks video where I was talking through names and how I name characters and personalities and sort of the brunt of what the story is, there's been a lot of progress, so I'm just so excited to talk you through it. In this video, I'm basically going to be talking you through the steps that I've taken in sort of the before I've started writing, so in outlining and planning, and then I'm also going to just give you sort of a breakdown of my thoughts at the moment with where I'm at now with writing. Planning this story has been so incredible. I've learned so much about myself and how I like to plan out my stories and how I like to prepare for the eventual writing process. And I'm really happy that I've done this and that I've figured this out, because it means that when I go to attack Project Grayscale, which is the fantasy project that I was working on before I started working on Sticks again, I now know sort of the steps that I need to take when I pick Grayscale back up to make sure that I am walking into that with the most preparation I can possibly have. I cannot stress enough how important planning out your project is. There are some people that can tackle it head on, make it up as they go along, and it will turn out amazing. I am not one of those people. But if you are somebody that needs things to refer to, needs to have it sort of written down and planned before you can sit there and focus on the writing itself, then this might be a video for you. From my understanding of my own experience with writing the first half of Grayscale, planning sort of 5 chapters and then writing those 5 chapters and then having to stop to plan the next 5 chapters and then write those 5 chapters is wasn't very efficient for my mental process when I'm working on a project like this. I like having it all planned out and having everything in one place so that when I'm writing, I'm just writing. I don't have to slip back into that planning mindset. I can just plan everything out, have it, know, how many chapters I'm going to be having, what I'm working towards, like, a rough sort of word count of how it might end up being, and then slip into the writing zone where I don't have to think as much about what comes next because I already know what comes next. I don't need to know what I'm building up to because I already know what I'm building up to. I don't think that makes any sense, but I really hope you're picking up what I'm putting down. I'm going to start with talking through the process of word splurging. Now, this is not a technical term. Do not by any means write that into Google or a dictionary. I don't know what the proper terminology is. I use the word splurge. You just splurge everything that you have in your mind for this project, whether you think you're going to use it or you're not going to use it. You put it onto a document, whether it's a Word doc, whether it's a Google doc, whether it's Readsy or Scrivener or whatever tool you are using. Put everything into bullet points. I have my Harper U, which is Project Sticks. Project Sticks is the Harper University series. I'm using Project Sticks as like the generic term for the whole thing. But yeah, I basically put everything that I had in mind for this book into bullet points. And it just meant that every single thing that I had sort of jotted down over the last 2 years, that I'd thought of, that I'd saved, that I had chucked anywhere, was all in one place. It was actually really therapeutic to get all of it into proper words. And it was really cool to see it take a little bit of shape and be like, okay, actually maybe I do have a beginning, maybe I do have a middle, maybe I do have an end, maybe I do have sort of a basic plot, and I also have journeys that both of my main characters go on, and I also have something that builds into the next books. cool. So now I just need to fluff it all up, make it fun to read, make it interesting, forge, you know, the dynamics and the connections that I want to forge, give what I want to give to readers. And this is sort of what enabled me to do that, because going through the little notes page that I had on my notes app, reading every little thing that I'd come up with over the last couple of years for this book, and putting it all into a document with everything else, it just put it all into perspective for me, and it was actually a really, really fun part of the process. I did not really think of doing this myself. I follow an amazing author, Lyra Winters. She is incredible. She writes a lot of Why Choose sort of paranormal fantasy books. She is the author of the amazing Fate Hollow Academy series. Out of all of her books, Fate Hollow is my favourite. If you have not read them, please do. They are incredible. They're very spicy, pre-warn, but they are amazing books. She posts on TikTok a lot about like her process and her books and everything, and I remember seeing a video on her page at one point where she does exactly that. She splurges everything that she comes up with for that book onto a document, and then she prints it out and she goes through with highlighters and marks like what's going to go in Act 1, what's going to go in Act 2, what's going to go in Act 3, and then she can use that to outline. And I was like, okay, that actually sounds like a really smart way to do this. Like, why have I never done that before? It was really, really beneficial. It allowed me to put everything in one place, and it meant that I wasn't forgetting anything that I'd come up with. Like, I went through all of the voice memos that I had saved that had been like weird late night ideas that I couldn't be bothered to write down. I went through the notes page that I had. I went through the Pinterest board that I had and like sort of put any quotes and little things that I'd seen that I wanted to include. And I also had a saved collection on TikTok. And so I like went through everything I had and put it, and it all culminated into this. And I very much recommend, if you are struggling with seeing any sort of shape to what you have and you think that you just have a jumble of ideas and not really sure where to start in terms of like crafting it into a timeline or a plot that makes sense, try doing this, because word splurging is, I will rave about it to the day I die. And my friend Natty is also in the process of planning and writing a book. I recommended she do the same thing and it worked very much for her. My friend Alice is also doing the same thing. She's planning out this like thriller duology that's like really complicated and it's got loads of twists and stuff, and she's just, where she's got a lot of characters involved and a lot of things involved, she's getting very like overwhelmed. So I was like, girl, splurge. It doesn't have to make any sense. They can be long, short. An example of like some stuff that I did was like, I had like ideas for scenes, but I had no idea, like I didn't want to go and sit there and write the whole scene because that's just going to take away from like the quickness of doing a splurge. So like I have bits of dialogue that are just like, you know, open of a quote to like the close and then it goes straight into another one. Like I know in my head when I read that who is talking, but if anyone ever read it, like they're not going to know. But it's for the ease of like when I was planning, when I was like, oh, okay, I want to do this in this chapter, I was like, okay, I'm just going to write all the dialogue I'm thinking of so that I don't forget it. But I have like long ones, I have really short ones, I have ones that are like just quotes, I have ones that are like plot related, I have ones that are like certain scenes. It's honestly just such an amazing tool to sort of see everything in one place, and I definitely recommend doing it if you're in the crazy stage of planning where you have no freaking clue what you're doing. Then once you have a sufficient splurge or a sufficient document that houses every single thing that you have come up with for this project, and I will say it's not set in stone, you can add things to it as you go, but once you have this and it's all in one place, outlining your story becomes a million times easier. It's how I was able to turn this like 5-page, you know, vomit of plans into I think it's like 23-page chapter outline of my entire first book in the Harper University series. And it's how I was able to realise that this book is going to have 61 chapters. That's including an epilogue. And I know exactly where the story is going, how it's going to happen, that every single thing that I've come up with for this story is going to be in the story and where it's going to be in the story. And I feel so much relief going into a writing session, knowing what comes next, knowing what I need to, build up to, what I can be excited for. Like, I already know which chapters I'm so excited to write, but I'm also so excited to write every one of them because I've planned what's going on in each one. Like, none of them are boring. None of them don't need to be there. I've mushed things together. Some of them are going to be shorter, some of them are going to be longer, but it's so therapeutic just to see it and know that it actually takes shape like an actual book. I didn't have any sort of smart or aesthetic way to lay out my outline. It simply just looks like this. At the top it says Harper U number 1 chapter plans. Chapter 1, bullet points of what goes in there. Chapter 2, bullet points of what goes in there. I will say that I wrote the first 6 chapters of Harper University number 1 about 2 years ago, when I first had the idea of this story that I wanted to tell. And then I got really wrapped up in the fantasy project that I was planning. That sort of took a precedent. Harper U sat to the side, and then when I decided I was going back to Harper U, I reread those 6 chapters, took what I wanted from it, which I will be completely honest, those first 6 chapters that I wrote like 2 years ago have stayed. Like, I went through and I edited them because some of the names changed and some like things, small details changed, and like some parts I changed, but the bulk of it stayed the same. And I think that just goes to show that like these characters in this story have sat with me for such a long time, and the fact that I can write a bit of it 2 years ago and it still is like something that I'm super happy staying. I got quite emotional, I won't lie, reading it, because I was like, this really is exactly what I want to do and what I've wanted to do for so long. And so the fact that I'm actually now thinking about like making it a professional thing and doing it properly, I think it's like something that's really important for me to cling on to, is trying to do this professionally, because people will let you down always. Like, drama's going to happen, things are going to happen, but your goals and your dreams aren't going anywhere. Like, that's really cringe. I could be let down by every single person that I know. I could be completely and utterly alone, but these characters and doing this as a job is like a dream that's always going to be there for me, and it's something that I'm always going to have, and nobody can actually take that away from me. So I got really emotional when I read those 6 chapters back, but it meant that like the first 6 chapter plans of this are quite short because I was just like writing down what was in those, and then you'll see they gradually get longer. Just wait. Just wait. It does indeed get a little bit worse. Oh, that's all chapter 22. That is all chapter 22. But that's what my outline looks like, and how I got it from this to that is essentially having both of them open on my screen, on my monitor. On one half I had the document with my outline on it, on the other half I had the document that my outline was on. And as I went chapter by chapter, I had the splurge open, and when I took something from here and I put it into a chapter, I highlighted it on the Word document I was doing it on, so that I kept track of like what I had already put into the book. And then I think I got to maybe chapter like 40 something, and I was like, okay, what else do I need to include before I can do like the end part with like, the big crescendo of the plot and like everything that's happening with the main character? What else do I need to include? Went to my splurge and I looked at everything I hadn't highlighted yet, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I wanted to do that. Oh yeah, I wanted to do a scene, where like she's wearing another guy's jersey and he gets all jealous over it. Like, I'll include that now. Like, oh, I had this idea to do this. Okay, I'll put that in here now because I'm like stuck here. And then when I got to a point that I'd finished everything and I'd done the epilogue, I went back through my splurge and I picked up everything I hadn't yet highlighted and then squeezed it into chapters that they could fit in, or I put chapters in that needed those things that I wanted to include. And it basically meant that every single thing that I wanted to be in this book got into the book. And when I get to the chapter, if I'm like, actually, okay, it doesn't make sense for it to be there, I can move it. But I know that it's there. I know that it's somewhere in that plan for the book. And I know it's somewhere there for me to create and craft and write. And it was such a good thing for me to figure this out as my process. Every writer, every author is going to have their own way of planning, have their own way of writing. This is the way that works for me. You might try it out and it might not work for you, but that's okay. You just need to find out what works for you. You might be the kind of person who just wants to go, write your first draft, get it done, and then you work off of that to get your final result. You might want to actually write it and then go through with a fine-tooth comb, plan it out, and then do a second draft that's like, you know, what it is. You might have so many different ways of doing it, and none of them are wrong. That's the joy of it. It's your project. It is your world. They are your characters. It is your baby, essentially. You can do whatever you want. That's sort of how I got to a finished outline, 61 chapters. I am so excited to share this story with you. I don't think you have any idea how excited I am to share this with you, especially because I have lived with these characters for 2 years and I have not forgotten about them in 2 years. So the fact that like one day other people might feel that way as well about my characters, it just fills me with so much joy. Like, it actually just makes me so happy. I almost get emotional just thinking about it. But I have truly learned so much about myself with writing and developing Cody and Levi and their story, and I'm really, really excited to be able to share more about it with you. As far as the writing process goes, I'm currently 10 chapters in. I finished chapter 10 last night, actually. And I will say I had a bit of a blip, sort of in the last like month or so. I've been struggling a lot mentally. I always want to make sure that writing is something that brings me joy. I don't want it to become something that is a chore. And where I do work a full-time job, and I'm obviously not on a deadline, I'm not on anything like that, I'm not in a rush to finish the story. I want to enjoy every single bit of its creation, and if I push myself too much, I know I won't enjoy it, and it'll become something that I don't want to do and I don't want to create. I'm having the best time, and I will say having the outline already done has been a saving grace. It means that when I'm writing, I'm only focused on writing. I'm not focused on like what has to come next in the chapter. I'm like, I know exactly what's happening in this chapter. I know exactly what I need to achieve. I even have, you know, direct dialogue that I'm including that I don't need to then think about too much. So it's been really beneficial to have that. And it's just been fun. It's been fun to write again. It's been fun to write something fun. And I'll be honest, working on Sticks has reignited so much of my excitement about Grayscale. And if you guys are interested, when I do pick Grayscale back up again, if you want a similar series to like this for that project, I would be so happy to do that. I already know that a lot of the characters are going to get renamed. I want to go a lot more in depth into their characters and their like personalities and backgrounds, and like note it all down, do a lot more planning for it going into it next time. So if you would love to see that process similar to here with like talk throughs of my step-by-steps and things like that, please tell me, because I really would love to do that. It would hold me accountable too, so please. There is one more thing that I want to mention before I wrap up this little update. There is one tool that I got for Christmas, actually. I've had this on my Amazon wishlist for a long time, and then my sister actually bought it for me for Christmas, and it is this. Master Lists for Writers by Bryn Donovan. This, I cannot even start about how incredible this is. I cannot explain to you how many times this book has come in handy during this whole process. It is incredible. So I will list out a few of like the things that it has in it for help and what they sort of look like. And then I'll link it. I'll link the Amazon, link. Oh, duh. So it has like a whole descriptions part in the contents. And then it's got like descriptions of facial expressions, descriptions of gestures and body language, physical descriptions, emotional descriptions, evocative images, making metaphors. And then it's got a whole settings section of like potentially interesting settings for scenes, sounds, scents, a whole plotting section. So 50 romance plots, 50 high stakes plots, 50 family plots, like all of these different things. Initial attraction, like a whole action part. So like 500 great words for action scenes and smut scenes and synonyms for intimate parts of the body. Like it's just... and like it's just so good. It's got like a whole names section, so like names from the Viking area, from medieval, from Regency, from the Wild West, from World War, like dialogue, ways people verbalize positive and negative feelings, ways people say goodbye, words and expressions, like character traits and traumas and ways to show a character as a good person, common jobs, high paying jobs, common hobbies, character quirks, like just, and it's overall just such a good tool to have next to you if you're ever stuck for a synonym or anything. And it's just been such a saving grace. And it's, it's not like huge, it's not tiny little text. It's laid out pretty nicely. Like it's got this whole section of like different nouns and adjectives, and I could rave about it till the day I die. That's where I'm at the moment with Sticks. 10 chapters in, and I also hit 18,000 words yesterday, so I'm about 18,000 words in, and I'm having so much fun. I'm really, really so excited to share this story with you. I do share some like quotes and things that I'm writing on my TikTok. So if you have a TikTok and you're interested in following along on there, I do make quite a bit of like writing related content on there. So please give me a follow. I always put the link to my TikTok and my Fable in the description below. So please go and give me a follow if you would like to see that as well. I don't know when my next Sticks update will be, only because I'm obviously deep into the writing process now. So there's not going to be much of an update until it's done, which is such a crazy concept that at one point this story will be done. Like, that's wild. I really hope you enjoyed this talk through. Again, I know it was really chatty, but I wanted to share this information with you. You're the one that clicked. Thanks for watching, everybody.